He's always ready.
Okay. We are now live.
Sorry.
So I'm going to come around here, and everybody out there, welcome. Hi. Everybody in here, welcome. We have a couple of announcements to make today, so get comfortable. The first announcement has to do with this. We have one event before the end of the year coming up, and it's the Sew Cheese or whatever event with Oklahoma Embroidery. And we do have some spots available. We're keeping it to a very workable number of people per slot. That's why we're doing two sessions on the 19th and on the 20th of November. The 18th is a lecture demonstration on stabilizers. And it's put on by Linda Peterson, who is with OESD, and she is very, very good. But this looks like a whole lot of fun, and we have made it extremely affordable to where it's only $79 to attend. And my gosh, you get the kit and you get all sorts of designs, and it's really going to be a neat event. So if any of you out there want to sign up, do it. Any of you in here, do it. We've got some spots available.
Can you do it online?
It is not online. Yeah, it's going to be a hands-on event. It's one of our few hands-on events. And again, we're keeping it to, like, the spacing is 12 people max in this room. And you've got basically plenty of room between you and your neighbor. So we keep it safe. Now, the next announcement. Everybody got their calendars? December 14th. Macy?
Party.
There is a party coming, and it's the holiday party, SewTime holiday party. We expect a lot of people to show up this year, and you are invited. You're going to be hearing more about it. It's December 14th on Wednesday at Pickering Barn. Across from Costco, we have rented it for the evening. So there is rumor that the Beach Toys, the group, might be showing up with live entertainment that night. Last year it was Silly Joel. He was really good. And we've had some famous bands over the years, but this on December is going to be fantastic. So stay tuned and get ready to sign up for that.
So what time is it?
We think it'll start about 6:30 and it'll end at 8:30. Just a couple hours of fun. But you'll see a poster with the Beach Toys on it. Picture of the Beach Toys, all that stuff. So without further ado, I want to welcome Andrew and Bernadette from Wonderfil. Andrew is my longtime friend. I've known him for years. He's taught me a lot about thread. And now he's here to teach you all about thread. Especially the threads that Wonderfil has. There is no one that's more educated and a front leader in this industry than Andrew. So I think you're really going to enjoy it. The SewTime members that were in the first session really got a lot out of it. He's got some great things to share with you, new notions, and we are going to do a show and tell at the end. So there'll be some prizes we give away like normal. And I think that's all I have to say. Okay, so Andrew, you're on.
Hi everyone. I have to say
Hello.
hi to you guys first who came here, and hi for those at home. So as Eddie introduced me, my name is Andrew. For those that don't know about me, I'm from Canada, and we actually a vertically integrated company. What that means is we source all our thread materials, and I'm in charge of product development. This is what I'm going to share with you when I develop a product, why. And then we produce and we distribute our product in 10 main quilting markets worldwide. All right. So I think what really surprised me when I started getting in this quoting world is how limited or how habitual people are in choosing what they use. And even nowadays, when I ask them, they say, "Oh, yeah, when I quote, I only use this. When I do something, I only use this." And when I ask them why, they could offer an answer. I hopefully after this session, I be opening up your mind a little bit. When you start looking for a thread to do a certain thing, then think about these three factors that I'm going to put in front of you, and then decide what you really want to use. There might be thread already in your collection that you have not really go to too much, but they can do a really awesome job for you for that specific application. So when I start developing a thread, what I always look around is around the market. We don't look at, okay, what other people have. I look at what's missing in the market, what the quoters normally do, and what will deliver the best work, the best job for them. That it does not require you to have any extra skill. My motto is that you don't have to be brilliant, but you can do and deliver brilliant work. This is what I'm thinking. You get the right tool, you get the perfect result. Easy. All right. So when we look at designing a thread, what I normally look at is what aspect of a thread do I look at? So if you look at there are three different aspects that the thread deliver. The majority of the people focus so much on just the holding function of the thread. They always say, "Oh, I want a strong thread. I want a thread for quilting." And this is basically what they look at. Most of the time, they pick up a thread, they try to break it. All right, it's not breaking my neck. Okay, don't do that. So any thread, it doesn't matter how strong it is, it breaks on your machine. Your machine can break anything. So a good thread doesn't have to mean the strongest thread. It means a thread with good sewability. What is sewability? Is a measure, something we measure, an index that we measure how well the thread actually guides through your thread path. All right. So first of all, for quilters, when you look at the thread that holds, what you're looking at, quilting. This is what you look at. Oh yeah, I'll be quilting with these threads. Or what do you do for holding purpose? Yeah, I need some threads to applicate this, to hold the pieces to the background, or you can do some even English paper piecing, again for holding things together. That is one of the functions. The secondary function is some people get it, but not everyone sort of understand as much as we would want to see. For instance, the second thing you look at the thread, of course, is color. People are attracted to our stand at the show or exhibition is because of the color. They come in, first of all, they admire all the beautiful colors, and then they lost. Okay, what am I going to get? They only see the color, and sometimes you won't believe how many times you have to stop them. Don't use this. What are you using it for? He'll be picking up a really chunky thread to do needle turn applique. So we said, don't do this. And we stop them and ask them what sort of thread, what are you looking for? And we try to help them. So a lot of people understand color, but they don't sort of like take into consideration what they are doing, just the color they're looking at. For instance, the thread will deliver color as well as some features for your project. Like here, three example, we have three different thread lines here. So this one is done with a regular 40-weight polyester, your embroidery thread. The other one is a 30-weight variegated rayon. This one is a rayon core metallic. As you can see, it creates features in your work. All right. So it is cotton. Again, it creates features in your work when you want a sort of metal look to go with your fabric. And this one is more kind of like edge treatment. You have decorative stitches on your machine. You can then hand and stuff. It's more like a collage thing. All right. This is the second thing you look at. when you look at the thread. Is the color going to play a part or not? Do you want to see it? You don't want to see it? And what do I want to pop? What sort of features do I want to get? So that's the second factor you look at. And the third is texture. All right. So in terms of texture, if you look at these two here, the one on this side is a regular 40 weight. And this one, that's a digitized embroidery. And this is a 12 weight double gas Egyptian cotton. Yes,
12 weight is smaller,
bigger.
bigger.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
Smaller than
you
others.
have your agenda. I'm going to move down
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I know I might not have said it in the best sequence, but I think first and most important, you have to understand when you look at the thread, when you're choosing a thread, what are you looking for? Okay, what do you have to understand? You can use a thread to texture to make the ugliest fabric to turn it into something lovely for a bag or for anything, right? So this is what the thread can do to help you texture the background. And now, this piece what I want to show you is for holding, right? At the same time that you will see the one on this side is 100 weight. So it's like, it's as fine as your hair. The other one is a 12 weight, and it is a 12 weight rayon metallic. So it is so soft and smooth, you can put in your needle and quilt with it. You see, so if you come in and just say, I'm looking for a quilting thread, I'm sorry, I don't even know where to start. I don't want to be irresponsible and throw in a thread that I know for sure is going to work for your quilting, all right? But then would it justify the amount of hours, time, and cost you have spent in coming up with your quilt top? And yeah, so this is what we care a lot about. Right, so these are the three factors you always want to consider when you pick a thread, all right? So how much holding you want? Do you want to see it? Do you don't want to see it? The color, do you want it to show, not to show? Does it have to create some sort of feature? And at the end, are you going to use it to texture your work, to add texture to work and elevate the centerpiece of the design you want to show? Okay, right. Now, the second thing we look at is, what is the right material of the thread that I should choose for my work? So what you might have come across most of the time, there are four different ones. There will be the cotton, there will be the polyester, rayon, and metallic. But we haven't made it simpler for you, even though it sounds four, but actually there are way more than four, because there are different ways they can be finished. And even in one family, there are different types. Like for instance, polyester, it's a huge family. There are really a lot of different quality, a lot of different kind of polyester. So to start with cotton that everyone's familiar with, all right? So a lot of people use it for piecing because they were told that the polyester can cut their fabric. They can also cut the thread or whatsoever. So they would love to stay with cotton. All right. So even cotton, there are different quality, whether they shrunk well, where they are short fiber, or they extra long fiber. Let's throw away the short fiber one that you find maybe in dollar store or the big box stores. Let's look at those that like you come into a store like this, a specialty store, a store that knows what they're doing. So you expect to see Egyptian cotton in a store like this. All right, but even for Egyptian cotton, there are different grades. There are different grades of cotton. All right, so if you want to look at the origin of the cotton, you say which one's better than the other one. To be very honest, you really have to be really good or into this industry to tell the difference. All right, so like a lot of us would use Egyptian cotton. For companies in the state, quite a lot of them would love to use Pima cotton. They're homegrown here. And even though cotton from like a third world country like Pakistan, the other one Indonesia, they turned out very good cotton. Cotton loves warm and moist climate to grow, and what's a good cotton is fine, very fine fiber. The finer the fiber, you have to put more of this fiber together to build up the thickness, the softer the thread's going to be. All right. However, it is the base material, but what really matters about the quality of the cotton is how it's finished. Even though we have long stable Egyptian fiber, we're talking about fiber that is just slightly over 1.5 inches long, so it's still very short. When you say long stable Egyptian fiber, don't even think it's like this. No, it is like this. So when you spin it, one interesting thing for you guys to note is for all you say, oh, that's a horrible all-purpose polyester. Actually, the length of the fiber that we use in the all-purpose polyester isn't any shorter than the Egyptian cotton. Could even be longer, and we call it extra long. All right. So because one is natural, one's man-made. In other words, why you have all the lint of why all-purpose polyester so linty? Because that is almost like no treatment. No? People don't bother to treat the lint. Let it stay dirty. Yeah, we use it for surgery or whatever. No? But for cotton, yeah, a little bit more attention's been paid to deal with it. There are only two ways you deal with the lint. One is to hide it. All right. Okay. So my spike doesn't look good this morning. I put some gel on that. Right. So this is one of the things that that company does. So they put some sort of wax or adhesive to hold down the lint on it. So you find a lot of some cotton in the market, they are stiff. All right. So you hold up a cotton thread, they don't drop. If you hold up a cotton thread, sorry, it's hard for you to see, it doesn't drop. It points. Do you see what I mean? And it is stiff. When the thread is stiffer, it's not as good to lay in your project. All right, you want something softer because you look at the amount of turns it takes for every stitch to do it. That's why you want a softer one. So the other way to deal with the lint is by burning it off. It is a manufacturing process called gassing. So it's a great big machine. So we pass every inch of the thread through a heater element or flame, and a certain ratio of speed and the size, and we decide how fast we're going to pass the yarn through and burn off the lint on the surface. And since we don't want to burn the structure of the core, the structure of the thread, everyone tends to underburn whoever of this process. So we said, nope, we want it cleaner, so we put it through another run and burn off the remaining 80% of the remaining 20 to make the thread cleaner. When the thread's cleaner, what does that mean? So we don't have to put anything on top. It will still glide through your work, even though when you do handwork with it. If you hand piece with the 50 weight or whether you hand quilt with the 12, you find that it's not grabbing. All right. So the way to differentiate a good cotton and the one that might not work as nicely as you would see would be the finish, not so much of the thread itself. All right. The strength got to be there, but I think everyone's there already. So yeah, that's cotton. Now going to polyester. About the cutting part, why our grandparents told us that the polyester cuts fabric or cuts your yarn, simply because polyester has quite a huge family. There are some bad boys there, and there's some really good ones. So polyester naturally, they have some bad character unless you really groom it nicely. So they all happen to be a little bit shinier, and they have stretch in the thread. I understand some people say, oh yeah, this thread is really good. Look, it has stretch. I'll be really quiet. I'll say, okay, yeah, that's good. I don't want to dispute anyone that way. So you don't really want a stretchy thread, all right, when you sew. Imagine if you have a stretchy thread, your seam or your work can pop out. all right? So with the bad polyester, what happens if it is a little bit stretchy, you might not notice it because your machine will be working at very high speed. There would be a stretch that's already built in the thread when you have it on your project, and over time it's going to creep back to its original length, and that's how it could cut your fabric. All right. The other one is because they're more prone to shrinkages. So wash dry cycle, ironing can shrink the thread. Yeah. So even now when I buy my shirt, there are some company, even though they're big names, you pay top dollar for it, but you may not get the best thread. They might show you the material is really, really good, it breathes, it does this and that, you don't have to iron it. But I'm sure you know that when you iron the men's shirt, after a couple of wash, you can no longer iron it flat here, or your cuff, or here, they all wrinkly, they all pull together.
Can you tell? Can you tell?
Unfortunately, well, I mean, I can tell, but I have to take it to a lab.
Oh,
All right, to really check out it. So for that thread that when you try out a polyester thread, maybe you want to buy a spool to try it out. If you think it works well for you, then you know, okay, this is the quality you want. Maybe you want to stick with that brand. This is what you do. You can't really do it with naked eye. You can't see that. All right, yeah, because even for when we say stretch, it's not like. Because a lot of people say, oh, the thread stretchy, because they're trying to break it like this. They don't understand when you do this, actually the thread sort of is into your thumb. Then that is extra gift. You thought, okay, it's stretchy. The way we break, we'd always pin it with our nail and try to see if it's stretchy. Instead of do this. All right, we don't do this. We do this. Yeah. All right. So this is polyester. Again, polyester, sometimes you have to treat it. So at Wonderfil, we cottonize our polyester. What that means is we understand you quilt with cotton most of the time. You may not want a shiny thread 80% of the time. So that's why polyester, when they first come out as the yarn, they are shiny. So we actually have to put this thread process to take away the shininess. So it looks like mercerized cotton. And we also treated it so it doesn't stretch. So it behaves exactly like cotton. That's cottonized, so if you look it up in the English dictionary, there's no such word, we made it up. So hopefully, yeah, and don't be surprised. I know when you look at me, oh no, he's not Canadian, he's not really from somewhere else. That's why when you look at all my thread names, they all misspelled. I try to make them that way. It's more interesting. At least I spell spaghetti without an H, so they won't be stopped at the border as food stuff. or my container is stopped. Why? No, you're not allowed to import food. No, it's not. Yeah. So the next thing is rayon. I'm sure everyone here enough bad thing about rayon from the industry, right? They try to scare you out of using it. Do you know why? No? The cost of rayon is 30% higher than polyester.
Oh,
All right? So actually if you buy a rayon thread and your poly thread, and the rayon thread is not twice as expensive, that is a better deal than your polyester.
God.
Yeah, because the margin is way bigger. This is how thread the company played out. So they try to tell you now with the poly, you can wash, it won't run on you, it does all the good thing, it's stronger. So it is what they tell you, but it is true. I'm not saying they're lying, it is true. But it is not what you always want, because the sheen you get from polyester is not same as rayon. Polyester embroidery thread, why I talk about embroidery thread, I'm sure you were used to this thread. Polyester embroidery thread, mostly they're tri-local polyester. What that means, their filament if you look at under a microscope, they're not round. When you have round uh, surface, the sheen is going to be more subtle, more elegant, like your rayon. When you have something that's not round like triangular, it's just like your diamond ring. You cut as many facets as possible. So when you have it like triangular, when you twist it and turn it, then it sort of reflect light from more directions, so it makes it shiny. But that kind of shininess, when you take it out in the sunlight or with spotlights, like a diamond ring under the counter, you will see it shines in a very different way. It's very artificial. It's very glittery. So not all the time you want a glittery thread, especially on the expensive brows. And rayon is also softer and friendlier to your body because it's made out of artificial fiber, not synthetic fiber. It's either from wood or from cotton. All right. Why people say rayon runs? Just rayon is dyed exactly like cotton, not like polyester. Polyester is dyed at between 150. I have to say Fahrenheit. So it would be about 240 to 260 Fahrenheit, for instance. So that means when you dye it, you have to dye it in a pressure cooker. Our big bath, it has a lid and you have to really close it, really crank it down like you're in a submarine, not trying to get the water to come in. All right. So then you get temperature higher than 212. Otherwise you don't. So imagine after it's dyed that way, is your washing machine able to handle 212-degree wash? No. So they're pretty safe that way. That's why they don't run. The only times you have polyester run because they haven't been washed thoroughly after they've been dyed. They won't actually come out from the fiber. There's no way they will come out from the fiber. That make them more calabash that way. In terms of strength, let me tell you something really ironic. So triple polyester really came into the market in, I think, 1985 from Japan. And in those days, it was deliberately made weaker, not stronger. They made it weaker. You know why? So in those days, they mainly used in factory. You don't even have an embroidery model machine in those days. For sewers like yourself. So it'll be all factories. And for those machines, you want to get an automatic thread cutters? No. Even you have, they don't want it. If you imagine that 30x, anyone doesn't cut it's going to stall the whole machine. So when you at a factory setting doing embroidery, what they do after they finish the embroidery, they snap. They go around and just snap off the work. So if you have too strong a thread, what happens? It's going to pull and pucker your design, or you're going to cut someone's finger. So that was deliberately made weaker, but strong enough to do the embroidery part. All right. So do you consider rayon if you're looking at doing something more elegant, more expensive that you wear to your body? Rayon would be good. All right. Again, I won't comment on some washing instructions for other companies, but you will see that there are washing instructions to tell you not wash it over 60 degrees Celsius, which is just really slightly hot water, not hot, not exactly hot, hotter than lukewarm, and just like cotton. If you can have cotton of poor quality that runs, and you can have good quality cotton that they don't, rayon's the same. So we, in our washing instruction, we tell you can wash it at 90 degrees Celsius, so it's almost like 190 Fahrenheit, and you won't wash it in those of temperature. So yeah, again, rayon very much depends on brand to brand, manufacturer to manufacturer, but they are the kind of thread you should not take it out of your equation. All right. So do use them if you can. And metallic, every time I brought this out, I say it's a love-hate relationship. It is something that the majority of the solar loves it. They hate it because they really want to work it. Some of them even gone the distance. They've been burned once. They're still going back now. I got to try it again. I tried another brand, and this coming back until the time they said, no, I'm going to give up on this. A lot of them, right? So there are things that you have to learn about using metallic threads. It's because the nature of the thread and the quality of the metallic thread is, again, don't use anything stretchy. Metallic thread has a core in the middle, and the core can be stretched if it's polyester or rayon, or some polyester and not rayon or nylon. They can be stretchy. So the way metallic thread's made, it has a filament core, and it's wrapped around by little metallic film. So if you have the core stretched, the film opens up, and there are those little gaps. And when it turns or bends, the open end sort of be very catchy in your needle eye and your needle eye as well as your thread. All right. So those are primarily the material you will come across during your everyday sewing. Now you also have to understand a little bit about the way the thread is made, because it does matter too. So number one, you have to be able to tell the difference between a spun thread and a filament thread. Don't take this, it's got to be filament. No, spun thread can be put on a spool like this. It's just the kind of spool it's been put on, but you should be able to tell it. So for spun thread, just like your all-purpose polyester, coarse-spun polyester, or Egyptian cotton or cotton thread, they are called spun thread. They're made out of short fiber, staple fiber is what we call. And they will not have a consistent cross section as a filament thread. Even though we do a great job, when you really compare it harshly, you will still see always filament thread has a more consistent cross section. Because, like what I said in the beginning, for stable thread, you have short fiber being blown together and twist together. So at some point there might be like 12 of them. At some point there might be 11 or 9. So you have the thick thin part. Good thread, you don't easily see it. Some poor thread, you can easily see it, the thick thin part on your thread. And some that we call snubs, and you even see their collection of a little ball here and there that we call snubs. This is what you will find in spun thread.
What is that called?
Snubs.
Slub.
S-N-O-B.
Snobs.
Snubs. Okay.
Snubs.
S-N-U-B.
Snubs.
Snubs. Yeah. Okay.
Good, we got that cleared up.
All right. Thank you, Eddie. So for the filament thread, what it is if I break this part, this bit here, all the filament or fiber you find would be of the exact same length as this thread. It's called continuous filament. All right. So I know you have a choice between spun thread or filament thread in your bobbin. I would suggest people to consider filament slightly more than cotton for that reason, because of the consistency in the cross section of the thread. That means you will get more even tension from your bobbin. All right, so there would be sample we can show you. Actually, I forgot to tell you folks is during my session, we're going to have myself talking about the way threads made and different things you have to know. Bernadette's going to show you some samples on the TV, and then you can see it visually. And at the end, I'm going to talk about some really important accessories that I want you guys to look at. And at the end of the session, we have a lot of sample laid out here. They not quote pattern or anything. Everyone is about how of how we choose a thread for a certain application. So do feel free to come up at the end of the event, and we can show and explain to you. All right, so then this is filament thread. So it's not spun, it is twisted. It is not spun, it is twisted. Now, one thing is, I know I have a tighter schedule to run. I always overrun. I'm terrible. No, Etty has only an hour for because there are a lot of people watching from home. So something that you guys need to remember is when you use a spun thread, use it off your horizontal spool holder on your sewing machine. All right? Sometimes you might not even need to put a cap there. It's not going to cause you any problem. Because the thread it clings because it has a little bit of tiny hair. Even though they won't come off, there are links that come off. There are also links that won't because they're so short. They cling to the body, the spool. So it releases the right amount every time you stitch. Every stitch you make, it just releases the right amount because it clings to it. When it comes to filament thread, it's different. It doesn't have that luxury. So if you put it horizontally, what happened? Look, one loop falls every time. So I'm sure you see all the time you have extra thread sitting at the bottom of your horizontal spool holder. If the thread happens to have more memory, and you can get into some sort of problem. That's why when you use slipper thread, you put a cap there. Why you put a cap there? Because then it elevates the angle and try to keep the thread from doing that. But for filament thread, what we said all the time is always use a vertical spool holder, not a horizontal one. So you'll be okay even drawing up like this. All right? Yeah. So the other one is wrap thread. Why people have core spun? Why we do core spun? Simply because for certain application, like what I said in the beginning, the holding function of it, sometimes we need the thread to be stronger. Like when we sew jeans, when we sew sportswear, we might want to use something stronger. Yeah. So that is the wrap thread. Now, next thing I like to talk about something that a lot of people believe they know. All right, is thread weight. Okay, if I said that, everyone's like, no, I don't know. So what really thread weight is? Thread weight simply is a measurement or a system that we use to define the size of the thread, not having to see the product itself or not having to see the person. We can just send an email and say, I want a thread with this weight, text, or whatsoever. We're supposed to understand each other. But unfortunately, in this quilting community, things doesn't work that way. Things does not work that way because literally there are a number of weight systems being employed in this sewing community. So you will see there are threads that defined by text. You will see threads that defined by ticket, and you will see threads defined by number. And it can be a number English, it can be number metric, it can be denier, it can be a lot of different things. It really messes you up. So at the end, every one of us try to tell you what weight. So do not even assume a 40 weight thread is exactly the same in diameter with each one. They not. If I explain to you what the thread weight is that's being used a lot in this industry is a constant weight system. What it means if you have a fixed amount of material, how much thread you can draw out from that batch of material to make that thread, it is the weight. So if for this amount I can draw out 100 meter, I call it 100 weight. If I can only draw out 440, I will call it 40 weight. So of course, the shorter, the chunkier the thread's going to be. So that's why you have something to say. The larger, higher the number, the finer the thread. That means the more you can draw out from it, the got to be the finer the thread. And that number is defined as the weight. 100 weight, 50 weight, whether you get 100 meter, 50 meter, or 40 meter. It's that concept. However, don't, like what I said, then don't immediately think that, okay, if that batch of material can draw out so much, it's 40 weight. So all 40 weight got to be the same, like what I said before. But one thing you have to take into account, even like cotton, your rayon, your polyester, they have different mass, different relative density. So like steel and cotton, if I have the same volume, if I draw out the same amount, the weight is different. So if I have a heavier material that weight the same in one piece as the other one, it got to be finer than the one with lighter material. So a lot of times you will find your filament thread in poly or the other ones, even their 40 weight, they are finer than your cotton 40 weight. Yeah. So you just have to remember 40 weight is roughly about that, and this is what we do. Even though sometimes we knowingly to understand, okay, this 40 weight poly maybe it really is just 35 weight, but we call it 35 weight, but the size of it is just like a 40 weight cotton. You get confused, so we will sort of tweak it a little bit. So we say, okay, this is 40 weight. But really, if you put it on a scale and say, hey, Andrew, this is 35, not 40. So I'm telling you, we just try to make life easier for you folks. Otherwise, you will have no consensus on anything. All right? Yeah. So that is the weight. So your weight doesn't equal to diameter. So do not say 40 weight, it got to be maybe 1/30 to 1/32 of an inch. No. So they can be slightly different, and different brand could be slightly different. Yeah, but shouldn't be huge. All right. Now, those I just talked about, like the weight, material, and different things. This is a little bit of the technical knowledge that I'd like to share with you. What's the most important is the first one I told you about, the 3 factors. And then now we come to the part that you really have to think what thread you want is the consideration. So how do you decide what thread you want to buy or want to use in a specific project? All right. So you have to, number one, know about what fabric you're sewing on. I know you'll be sewing on quilting fabric. Majority of it will be just woven out of cotton yarn. So your cotton thread will blend nicely with your fabric. So if you use a filament thread on cotton, you will get more crisp look on your stitches. If I'm going to do the same stitch with the cotton thread on your cotton fabric, it blends more, so it will be more humble. Even if the same color that I use with a filament thread, even not shiny, okay, cottonized, it does, you can see it more crisp, more well-defined, the stitches, more clear. So that's why the material of what you're stitching on is important. And whether you're stretching on the woven, you're stretching on knits, or you stitching on like satin fabric. Satin fabric, they made out of filament. So if you use a cotton thread to stitch on satin, I can guarantee you it doesn't look too nice. All right? Yeah, because your material is so smooth. Yeah, and the sheen, everything. If you use a cotton thread, you have this blurry look on the stitches. Yeah. Then, you have leather and different things. Why I say that is when you say, oh, I'm sewing leather, where's my chunky, no, the strip that is very long. Okay, the denim. Oh, that's leather. I don't know where to put it. That's okay. All right, I can show them later. So like if you're sewing denim, you're sewing leather, then of course you use a much stronger thread, all right? So then you will use what we call high tenacity thread. They even call high tenacity. So they are really strong. You can hardly break it just like this. All right, so it really depends what you sew. Okay, thank you, Bern. So like this one, there are 7 layers of denim sewn together. So it's nice and tight. You know, there are situations like this you need to do, like your garden furniture. Maybe sometimes you want to mend the awning or do something. You want to use this thread or make a bag that you can put a bowling ball in or whatever. Yeah.
Does Wonderfil have a high tenacity thread
It's called home deck.
called Home Deck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. This is exactly why we call it, because for home decoration, we're expecting you making cushion, you making sort of things that you be using it a lot. So you need a stronger thread to go with the stronger fabric. Yeah, and the weight of fabric also matters. You definitely don't want a bigger thread on like an Angelino. It just doesn't look right. Or vice versa, a very heavy material that you use an 80 weight thread. So the weight of material is another consideration. Number one, the finish of your fabric. First consideration, the weight of the fabric. It defines how heavy the thread you want to use. If you want the thread to stand out, then you throw off the balance. Whenever you want to feature something, you throw off the balance. You don't follow what should. Okay, so there's take me for instance. I won't marry a wife that's 6 foot tall, right? Unless I want everyone when we walk in the street spot me. Look at him. Look at his height. You know, if I just have an average wife to go with my height, you just pass by. All right. So once you want to show, you throw the balance off. All right. So and another thing is application purpose. So just now, like what I show here is I did show this. So purpose. Say if I want an applique nice and clean, nothing else, I would use a very fine thread, like 100 weight. When I said, I know I do want to decorate it a little bit, then this time I use a 12 weight. So again, you have to know your application and you have to know what you want to show, the purpose of it, to pick your thread. So a utility weight thread won't do every bit of it. They'll do some, but not every bit. That's why you have to start looking at a bigger collection of different finish and sizes. I also included the bobbin thread in this consideration. Probably cotton thread is the least that people would pay attention to. So even when we came up from Quebec, I tell you, I was in Quebec just yesterday for last few days. Every time the customer come in, they just pick the top thread. Sometimes I don't know what I should do. Okay, they love the 12 weight glamour, really thick, and the other ones, specialty threads, and they check out. I said I'd rather risk losing this customer than having her to go home and have a hard time. I said if you want to use this thread, you need the 80 weight in your bobbin. I mean, for some people say, you try to get me to buy another thread, you know. But
They say that.
yeah, but I show them the reason. Most of the time they get it, they understand. Your bobbin thread is so important to ensure you get good stitch quality, good light work, and also less tension issue and less thread breakages. It is extremely important. All right. So, and you don't have to have a huge knowledge to pick your bobbin thread. It is just there to hold down your top thread. You just need a nice, small, lovely hand to hold down whatever comes through the top. Yeah, and you can stay with it.
So are you saying that if you're using a 50 weight top,
Yeah.
you should be using something
Always something lighter.
lighter on the bottom?
Yeah, because it's just to hold down your top
So
thread.
80. Okay.
So just now there were some big spools here, right? So
Okay.
You know all the long arm spools, right? The size of the long arm spool?
Here.
Steve?
It's right here.
Okay. So our 80 weight thread of a size like this has almost the same amount of thread on this. Now I'm telling you, would you want to put this on your quilt? Then you don't have to.
It's gonna make your quilt.
Because
stiffer.
it has the same length almost. You can see the difference in weight that you put on the quilt that you do not have to. It seems you lost there, right?
Yeah.
So if I tell you
Following
this is 2,200 yards, this is 2,500 yards, look at the difference. So that's why you see a lot of work out there, they don't lie flat. If you put on the table, they kind of, they don't drape nicely because they're simply too stiff. The stiffness comes from the bolt. Now imagine if you're doing embroidery, you use a slightly bigger regular 50 or 60 weight, and then you build a lot of bulk at the back of your embroidery because every stitch you do at the top, same thing. And your needle bringing the thread through at the same spot many times for some embroidery design. And what's going to happen next? Uneven tension, breakages, right? Stiffness. This is why I said this is so important. Piecing, machine piecing. You're holding the pieces together. You know that I want a really lovely round stitches. You know round stitches made out of curves, made out of straight stitches. So that means the shorter your stitches is, the rounder your curve is going to be. If you use a bigger thread than this, what happened next is if you try to make a nice tight round curve, you're going to build a lot of bulk. With these, you can drop the stitch length tremendously to even 1.5, 1.6. Nice tight seam, nice and flat. And that's the point. For machine piecing, 80 weight is what we encourage people to use. We have 50 weight Egyptian cotton, but why would we say, don't buy this, buy this? I got to be stupid because there are almost twice as much thread on this than this, and the price is not twice as much. Why would I want you to buy less? Sorry, Eddie. So I'm getting them to buy
Thanks.
slightly less. Sorry. So that will last you longer and give you better economy, but give you better results. All right?
Happy customer, more
True.
customer. So he's your friend?
Once was.
So if you buy the top 80 for the top stitch and the bobbin, what's that gonna be?
Always 80, like
Always
what I
80.
said earlier.
Okay.
Always 80.
Okay.
Like the piece I show you here just now. It's 80 weight at the back for all of them. And we put it in and we didn't go back to adjust the tension after we adjust the first time. And you just adjust the top tension, period. And that's a regular machine embroidery. And this stash I have here is on a long arm machine, Yeah. So, all right. So, and of course you have to decide whether you're using it for hand or for machine. And don't ever underestimate the how critical it is to pick the right thread for your hand work because it's more demanding
I don't have
for a
to
machine
do
thread.
that.
No, in case for those who does hand work, yeah,
Not me.
that it's more demanding.
On the home deck thread that's thicker, the high tenacity thread, you don't put that in your bobbin, do you? Because most things always say match the top and the bottom, but then that's,
Okay.
is that what you would recommend? for-
No, I always say put a finer thread in your bobbin. Say for
Yeah.
home deck, you're dealing with something that requires a lot of strength. This time we say, okay, this is an exception, thank you. So you don't use deco bar, but home deck comes in 3 sizes. It comes in 30, 40, and 60. We will say keep the 60 in your bobbin and the 30 at the top because a lot of times when you stitch heavier material, again, back to the balance of the fabric weight. you need a slightly bigger stitch to look correct. So when you stitch like stripes for your straps for your bags, you use 30-30 because you're going to see it from both sides.
Okay.
And now I just want to ride the wave of your question of using the same thread top and bottom. All right. So people use the same thread top and bottom simply because I don't know who that told them that if you use the same thread, you won't have tension issue. Okay. So I'm not smart, but I'm not dumb. All right. So if you have a thread that you put miles away on your sewing machine, go through all this twist and turn into your needle, and then the same thread at the bottom and say, hey, hold me. It's just a couple of stitches away. How do they balance out? I don't get it. So it's a totally different tensioning mechanism. Maybe Eddie can help me to explain later.
Yeah, later.
So I don't see a natural balance like this. And people then argue saying that if you have the same thread top and bottom, if you have tension issue, it hides. So I'm saying yes, it might hide, but if you can accept a line, just because when your bobbin thread comes up, your top thread will be simply a straight line, right? If you like that, maybe, right? Otherwise, we always advise people to use a different color bobbin thread that goes with the background color of the top. So if it comes to the top, it hides in the background, you still get the illusion of broken stitches. All right. So yes.
By going with two different weights, top, through the needle as well as the bobbin, do you typically need to also adjust the tension on your machine to accommodate the fact that they are two different weights?
Absolutely. I think for your bobbin tension, take me, I fly around, the first thing I get off the airport, I go to Avis, I pick up a car, I drive, every time they give me a different one, all right? So take the bobbin as me. So I'm not going to change, but once I sit in the car, I always have to sort of roll the seat and say, okay, I really roll it to the front, but I still can't hit the gas. No, I mean this kind of thing, just think along that line that the bobbin's going to stay the same. Once you adjust it, meaning it is good. Now you just have to deal with the top tension, whatever you put at the top. You don't have to really revisit your bobbin tension, but it's a good practice sometimes to check because it's a moving part. So it can sort of get knocked off and changed.
And I guess a practice piece is always a good idea to
Practice pieces, practice, I think a trial, a testing piece, yeah. So always include a batting, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen people just have two fabric together. I thought, okay, so I don't know how they can do it. So I think the next part, like what I said, is Bernadette's going to show you some actual sample on the TV. I have the actual sample right here that I can show you later. So it is easier for everyone to see. So yeah. So I mean, having said so much, I just want to get your attention.
Let's wait till the end.
In each of these boxes, we have the serger, we have the embroidery, and we have the quilting, all right? Why we do this, and they are actually, you see that nice spools, they all are different. I'm trying to tell you, even you do quilting, they are really different kind of thread you want to experiment. And I think it is really a good opportunity seeing all this. I hope your mind's open and look at the huge discount that we already gave so you get a really awesome deal of it and learn a lot. If you don't try it, you won't learn. That's why we all need to have experience, right, in things. So it is a really good deal. So, well, how much is this now?
31.
No, save 31. Like for a pack like this, it is $6.59. Look at this. No, it's it. Original.
Yeah, that's the original price is 90.
Yeah, but then minus 31.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that this is a good way to try. That's why we package this. and try to make it irresistible so you will try and learn. Yeah, so Bernadette, please.
Yeah, can I just say one more thing? The great thing about these is that you'll see on the back, it'll give you exactly what's in here. So there's designer, there's D-twist, there's some razzle dazzle in here, and there's some accent. So it gives you a variety of threads to try on your serger. This one is the same with your embroidery. It has a number of different threads back there for you to try instead of going and trying to pick what you want to use. So you bring your little box home and then you try them all on your little, on your project, right? Okay. So here we go. Endless possibilities with Invisifil. So I'm going to talk a little bit about two threads that I particularly love the most, which is Invisifil, which is a 100-weight thread, and Decobob, which Andrew already started with, 80-weight thread. So I was your cotton girl. I use cotton 50-weight all the time, but then I realized a few things, and hopefully I'll take you on that little journey with me. If you look at your Wonderfil brochure, up here in the right-hand corner, you will see our thickest thread that we make. So that's 8, 5, and 3. And then down here, the pink spool on the bottom is the thinnest thread that is manufactured, which is 100-weight that I'm going to talk about. At the very bottom here in this little description, it'll tell you the material, it'll tell you its uses, and then at the bottom, it'll give you recommended needle sizes. And I say recommended because that is a place to start. This also talks about Decobob as a bobbin thread. And you can see the different, this is the actual size of the bobbin. So if you don't know what your bobbin is, it'll give you the diameter of L, and class 15 is the same. And then the depth is different. The L is a little bit different than So there you go. This is something that I think you should put in your sewing room. It gives you a lot of information and it's a great, great reference tool. So when you want to start playing with those threads, you can. So today we're going to start with Invisifil. Invisifil is 100-weight. It is, Andrew already talked about it. It is a cottonized poly. It comes in 60 different colors. And they're really pretty colors. So we also talked a little bit about thread weight. So you can see the 100-weight all the way through to 8-weight. The other number I want you to really think about is 12-weight. 12-weight, even though there is a little variety in different 12-weights, is the thickest thread that'll go through your tension discs and your needle eye, okay? The 8-weight is for couching, bobbin work, hand work. And then the 50-weight and 40-weight are threads that we mostly start with. So most people start with a 50-weight cotton thread to do piecing with, precision piecing. We'll talk a little bit more about. And then the 40-weight for embroidery, long arm quilting, and that. And then we're really going to focus on the 100-weight and the 80-weight. The next photo here is a foundation paper pieced pattern, okay? And if you look at this thread line here, you do not see any breaks in the line and you do not see any disruptions in the pattern. It's even throughout the whole piece. So that thin thread, you're not going to see a color change in there. You're going to see a very fine thread. And it's also going to give you a very, how many of you guys don't like a super densely quilted quilt? There's a few hands up there. They're kind of stiff, right? They're not really all that cuddly. But if you use Invisifil, and we can show you this with the lion one here, I want you to come up and feel it. It's super soft. It's gonna still be that cuddly quilt that you might want. But it also gives you a lot of texture and you're not really looking at the thread. Okay, you're not seeing that thread there. And you can use one color to quilt all that instead of changing it every so often. The next one here, the background is all quilted with Invisifil on the top, Deco Bob in the bobbin. Same thing, you're gonna see a lot of texture. You don't really see the color of the thread here, right? And then if you look at the Wonderfil, this is all quilted with our Spotlight, which is our metallic thread. So metallic on the top, Deco Bob in the bobbin, and then look at how fine and look at the detail. You can see here it's almost a little bit more detail, a little bit more texture, but I'm gonna show you the next slide. And we do have another little project here to show you. Look at the detail here. This is all done with 100 weight. You can see how tiny that detail is. Look at how close all these stitches are
It's
right
been
here.
blown up like 20 times. Okay, the sample is very small.
Yeah, the sample's about this size here.
Yeah.
This is
And
also
you're
another,
seeing only one corner of it.
Oh, wow.
yes,
What weight are you putting in the bobbin then?
Deco Bob,
80.
80 weight.
80. Oh.
Yeah.
So 100.
Always 80 weight in the bobbin, always 100 weight on the top.
Is that in a
May I-
regular
may I
machine and a
use-
long arm?
I'm sorry?
Regular machine and a long arm?
Oh, yeah.
For
Oh, yeah.
unit?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry, may I interrupt a little bit?
Absolutely.
So you may say, Andrew just said to use a lighter weight in the bobbin. Why I have 100 weight at the top now and use 80? Actually, you can use 100, but again, a lot of times we think about a random sewer. So they used to maybe 50, 60 weight in the bobbin. If they put 100 weight in the bobbin, they're going to have a heck of a time to adjust the tension if they can. Some of them, they don't have the confidence to go there. This time you're not going 15 degrees. You're going to crank it, and some people feel uncomfortable, right? So the 80 weight is much easier to adjust. That's why we say 80 weight is good enough, even with Invisifil. That's the only exception that you will see.
Little bit of a reverse. So once again, here's a trapunto texture. You can see how thin that is, how close together those stitches can be to give you that 3D effect in your piece here. Doesn't that look cool? And then I think this is a wave stitch on the outside of this.
Yeah,
with,
it's a wave.
with razzle and dazzle,
Yeah, it's
so that's also.
yeah, surge with a wave machine.
Okay, next, what else can we do with Invisifil? Invisifil is the perfect thread for hand applique, for those, how many of you do hand work out there? Oh, there's a few. It's an awesome thread. You're gonna not see those stitches at all. So if you're gonna, you want that perfect clean edge and not see little pokies here from a 50 weight thread, you're gonna just see such a clean piece. And you can also use it in your machine. So this here, if you look very closely, this is a little tiny zigzag here to hold down that edge. And you really, really can't see it. So you're gonna match the thread so that it picks up the color of the green, but it doesn't have to match perfectly. Okay, another little
So back on that one, the
Yeah.
leaf, what color is that thread?
5-9.
Is it a green or is it a,
It's a green. It's a
We have
very,
the quilted
very,
one, and we also have this half-done. So, yeah, the back is black. And I can show you another piece later. Don't even worry about the color of Invisifil. I have proof to show you right in front of your eyes. Have to be really good to tell me which color we use, because it simply picks up color as it goes.
it's this one.
Yeah, so let you finish, yeah.
Okay, the next one, a lot of us do stitch in the ditch. So if you look at the 50 weight thread here, you can see we were stitching along in the ditch and then we kind of went off track. But you can really see it here. look at it compared to in using 100-weight Invisifil. And I'm stealing Andrew's line, you just need to stitch in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You don't
So we
really
call
have to
stitch in the
stitch in
neighborhood
that
now.
ditch.
We should label it like stitch in the neighborhood. And again, later on, you can check it out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you can really see the difference here. Right, those two are pretty cool. This is another close-up of the leaves here again, the hand applique here, the machine applique here. You cannot even see that little tiny zigzag. So smaller needle, like a 70-10, and also I want you to reduce that stitch length, that zigzag. I usually use personally around a 1.8 length and width, okay? It gives you enough to grab it, but not too much. And one of my last slides here is for English paper piecing. So this is all English paper piece with a 100-weight with Invisifil. You can't see any of the stitches there. How many of you guys really want to do this by machine? Okay, so a number 10 Bernina foot, an edge foot, and you can do a little tiny zigzag with your Invisifil. 1.8 is my personal magic number, but you can go smaller, but 1.8 seems to work easier for me. I can go fairly quickly. You can try it by machine because it really does work. And nobody could ever tell. The last I wanted to go to is we have 60 different colors of Invisifil. They are amazing to use. You can use it always with Deco Bob in the bottom. You always want to make sure that you reduce that stitch length, okay, when you're using it. Okay, second slideshow, I'm going to talk, if you have any questions about Invisifil, just looking for the next slides.
What about on foundation paper piecing?
We're gonna get to that as soon as my little slide pops up. Sorry.
Andrew. So will you make us a box like Deco Bob with like a rainbow of colors?
Yeah. Would I?
Yeah.
Okay, you carry on.
I thought you gave it, you do have a box of different threads.
No, just for the Deco Bob. Do you have that?
No, I show you something.
Are you already
It's in
doing
the-
this?
it's in the
I'm like
works
so
there.
excited.
We're going to debut it at Houston.
And now it's gonna be debuted here at Issaquah Sewing and Vacuum.
Sorry.
So here we go with the 80-weight 2-ply cottonized poly in Deco Bob. So you were talking about piecing. Here we go. So here's your foundation paper piece, Flying Geese. And if you look here, you can see that shadow right there, right? When you totally see that shadow, that's the thickness of that 50-weight thread. And it's taking up a significant amount of space here, right? Now look at the 80-weight Deco Bob.
Really?
It's gonna be flatter. It's gonna give you, because we're gonna reduce that stitch length to 1.8 or 1.5, you're gonna get more stitches as you go to that point. So that point's gonna be crisper. It's gonna be cleaner, and you're gonna get it laying much flatter here. Okay, and the same thing Andrew was talking about, curved seam. So if you had a drunkard's path or, a nice curved seam, the more stitches you can put into those curves, the curvier curve you're gonna have, right?
So that's an 80-weight in the bobbin and a
on the
100-weight on top.
80-weight the bobbin.
Top and bottom for machine piecing.
Okay, but I have to ask, do you have to reduce the stitch length? I'm thinking, like I do a lot of
In the bottom.
garment or doll clothes, if you have to seam rip that sounds like a nightmare.
It's not really that bad, but you really want that stitch, you want the smaller stitch length to give you strength. You also don't want slippage in your seam allowance as well. So,
just.
I mean, the whole
Trying to see
idea
if
is
we
to
can
get,
a
you know,
rainbow.
even if you're putting a sleeve in or something like that, you wanna have more stitches in there to give you strength as well as a nice curve, right? And so the minute you do a bigger stitch length, you're not gonna have that
When you
happen.
say garment, what's a garment mainly?
I sew doll clothes.
I'm sorry?
Doll clothes.
Doll
So do that
clothes.
next
Oh,
time.
doll clothing. Yeah, especially when you do doll clothing, you remember we talked about compatibility, so you have smaller garment. If you use a regular garment construction thread, it's like sewing your regular garment with an 8-weight thread.
Okay.
So you better step down, so it makes sure the seams, everything sort of goes better with your doll clothing.
Okay, so this goes back to the 50 and 80 weight thread, we already talked about that. And now we're gonna talk a little bit about bobbins. How many of you use pre-wound bobbins? Awesome. How many of you use Deco-Bob pre-wound bobbins? That's good, we're gonna have to get a few more of you there. There's 36 colors plus, how many more in the works? Almost 60?
Can we get a box for the 36?
With the 36
All the
different
different
colors?
colors?
Oh, yeah. we have it.
There
already
should be a
submitted.
master set over there
Yeah,
that'll
they-
give you
Eddie
all
has
the,
Eddie
all the
already.
colors.
Yeah.
You know, you're just gonna get a really more precise, you're probably gonna go, why do I want pre-wound bobbin? And this is the reason why. This one here is your self-wound bobbin, and here's the pre-wound bobbin. One, you're gonna get more thread on it. Two, look at how evenly and precisely this is wound. So that's gonna just give you a way better tensioning as well. And if you look at the result here in this teardrop over here, this is a self-wound bobbin with Deco-Bob. Can you see all the little spaces here? And then look at, my little pointer sometimes doesn't want to behave. Look at how much more even, how much more dense the stitches are here with the pre-wound
After
bobbin.
then come up here to look at it closely, because it's very hard to see there. Here you can easily see the difference with the live sample.
So you don't have a bobbin that fits the Bernina though, so you have to do you have to do a self-wound. So is there a suggestion when doing a self-wound, how to make it better?
You need to wind it slower, and you need to look at it so it's winding more consistently. Because most of the time what people do is they want to put it on super fast, get that bobbin wound, pop it in and move on, right? Is that not usually what we want to do? So you want to have it at least midway. You don't want to be winding it super fast.
What I found really, really hard is if you know the size of our bobbin winding machine is like this table, all right? And the thing is, even what Bernadette suggested, if you wind slower, you don't get as tight or as high tension. So only when you wind fast, you find your own pre-wound getting sort of tighter. Otherwise, it's going to be slightly softer. So honestly, it is because of your equipment. It's not because of you. There are so much limitation that you can do. Otherwise, we won't even do pre-wound. And going back to Bernina, you just mentioned, so we do cover Bernina, the older ones, all right?
I know
The
that.
newer ones, when you talk about the 800, 700, and the 500 series, is in the Berna. So we have already some mock-up of the bobbin done. We're just testing things on it. So hopefully, maybe in a year that we will have the pre-wound bobbins for Bernina.
So I have a long arm bobbin winder. That would probably be better for the Bernina ones then, because I can adjust the speed.
You mean that white box, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I know it's kind of like a block and you have the, yeah. So that is really a bobbin winder. Okay, it's not fitting me, for factories. So I've seen a lot of bobbin winder in embroidery machines, embroidery factories, because they wind their own bobbin. Yeah, this is a typical sort of setup with the white block and then a metal standing up. You put it on here and once above it. That is not bad, but definitely not near to a machine that's specifically made for winding bobbin. Yeah.
Okay. I think this one. This one. So these are the threads that are available here. Confetti and Tutti are 50 weight thread. One is solid and one is variegated. Spaghetti and Fruity is the same, 12 weight variegated. Then we have Razzle and Dazzle, which is 8 weight thread. Spotlight, which is the name Andrew gave our metallic thread. Then we have Deco Bob, which is 80 weight, and Mirage, the pre-wound bobbins, and Invisifil. And this is just going to be a real quick overview. You can see the difference between a cotton thread here and then the shininess. Not quite as shiny, but there's still a little bit of sheen with Master Quilter. And here you can see the differences in the weight. Here's a 50 weight and a 12 weight. Andrew has the actual sample here, which is going to give you a much better look. If you look here, here's a bunch of variegated threads, and look at the job that they do on, a nice quilted piece here. I think the big thing I want you to take home is that different threads are going to do a different job. So you just don't want to come in and color match it to a gray background and then quilt over the whole thing. There are different reasons for different threads. Some are shinier, some are bossier. The glamour is going to give you a real pop of color with a little bit of glitz. You can do different things with them. You're not limited by that. And you can add so much texture and fun. Here's some couching, some handwork you can add in for texture. You can see the couching here. You can see the bobbin work up here. You might need a new bobbin case to do that, so you can play around with those threads. Some metallic, some Mirage, and the next one's one of my favorite pictures. I think Andrew showed you this. This is metallic on the embroidery machine, and this is the Mirage on the embroidery. Look at how cool that looks with one thread and a little bit of color. Okay, I think that's pretty much what I wanted you to see.
Can you go back one slide?
Back one slide.
Yeah. So on the spotlight, so then it's, okay, so it says much less prone, so it's actually maybe more easy to work with than some of the other metallic threads out there.
I'm going to get on it right after
Okay.
showing you.
Yep, so just make sure that you think about the thread, what you want your final project to look like, or what you want to accent. So use that 12 weight thread, use the metallic, use glamour, use cotton thread, in the background. And then, when you don't want to see the thread and you just want a lot of texture, use Invisifil and or Deco Bob to create that for you. Okay? So hopefully that takes you on a little bit of a journey about all the different threads and what they can do for you. At least whet your appetite so we can talk about more stuff.
Okay, so the next bit, or the last bit, I want to share with you is my 3 inventions during COVID.
Yay.
Wow.
Somebody was productive.
So I have a little bit more time to think about things. I had 3 inventions already before these 3, and people love it, so it keeps me going. All the time, like I said, I'm thinking about the need. How can I help them to do better? All right. So one thing that I had from before is called a Wonder Guard. It comes in the pack of 10. It's like this. So people will say, "Oh, is it just magical tape or something?" I said, "I don't know. I just know that when we do this, we make sure there is no excessive static on this, even that it clings. Otherwise, it can migrate to your thread, the static, and it is not going to be good. So what it does is I don't like to have a snap bobbin. First of all, I find it very hard to open them with the fingernails. And number two is if you don't, you come grinding on it and it hurts the thread. So, and it doesn't protect the thread at all, it just hold the ends in. So what I'm saying is use WonderGuard and then wrap around, tighten it, you store it, you're not going to lose an inch. The thread is as fresh as you get it from, the first day. The main thing is when you use it, you actually loosen it out slightly so it forms a sleeve. It doesn't grip on your spool like the thread net. So when you draw at this point, it doesn't have to fight its way up and then it releases tension when it comes to the top, and you'll be sewing like a varying tension. And this one, if you put it loosely like a sleeve, it doesn't grip on your thread, and it comes out a whole lot nicer. And that was one of the way we help people to have better luck with metallic before. But metallic definitely has way more memory. Even with these, it helps maybe 70–80% of the sewer, and not everyone. So I'm not totally happy. A lot of times when I launch a product, I can't accept even a few percentage of people won't be happy, because they the one that can be hurt, So what it is called ultimate thread dispenser. As the name suggests, it's ultimate thread dispenser. So what it is I know you guys travel to classes and do things. So it comes in two pieces, so you can easily travel with it, not worrying having to break the thread die. And by the way, Eddie, if anyone lost or break one, you just let us know. We replace them at no cost.
Wow.
All right. So just to let you know, so what do? So you put this thing on, and now why we use this the first thing is because the thread are always put on this way. Whether you use it horizontally or vertically, you always draw from one end. So that means every time you take one turn, there's a twist induced. So for thread that has most memory, like your metallic, it starts self-tangling and cause you also a problem. All right, so it's very easy to understand. That's why I use my foam cord and my water. So imagine this is the spool of the thread, and this is how we put the thread on. When you use it, you do this. Look at that. This is exactly what happened to your metallic. Now with this tool, what I'm saying is now you're drawing like this. So it's always straight. Now I'm going to demonstrate to show you. Now you put the thread just on here easily, and there the thread guide. It has actually two slits. You don't have to thread it, and you just have to put it through. And now the thread always delivers sideways, the thread. So that means it always comes out straight, and it beats the memory of it. And you're going to have a whole lot more luck. And you can put this on your spool holder, as you can see. Just sit on your vertical spool holder, or put it behind your machine where you have a thread stand, beside your machine, over the top of your machine into it. Then you can sew with literally any thread. You don't need to put the cotton here. For the cotton and spun polyester, you won't have any problem like this. But for your filament thread, particularly, this is what you would want. And for people who have surgery, you're going to love it. Now you can do so many decorative edge treatment with the help of this. All right. So, but then you might need to purchase more than one.
Which is exactly what happened this morning. So circle it on your sheet, because we have a whole nother set we've ordered coming in. So we can go ahead and bring it in and call you as soon as it's here.
So you're out.
Just like that.
Well,
Because he said get to it, everybody said, I'm good.
You know, when I first came out of this and the people I've spoken to, I'm expecting I can sell 1 million of it in a year.
That's good.
I'll bet.
Yeah, this is how people respond to it. They use it, they recommend, and just by looking at it, you know, they understand, yeah, absolutely, you know, yeah. So that's that. And that second thing I like to introduce, again, we don't have to be genius. We just have to have common sense. So my wife, she loves wool applique. Somehow, you know, we started to develop the product line, everything with Sue Sparkle, and she's huge in wool. And then my whole family, my 2 girls, and Fiona, my wife, and a lot of us in the company, they kind of like addicted to it. So, and then I found that having all the needles or poking them, everything, once in a while, Fiona said, Andrew, can you get me a Band-Aid? So what happened? And she got poked again. And even when you sew regular applique, you have to sew, you have to remove a pin, you know, that's slowing down process, not really very enjoyable, I would say. And a lot of you travel. You love to go to cruise, you love to go to retreat, and you definitely don't want to bring anything lethal, right? A lot of needles, that's not good. So, and another thing that people use a lot that doesn't work on wool, but it works on your regular quilting cotton is those fusible, I don't want to say name, you know, those fusible materials. But what it does, it fuses the whole piece, all right, and then make it stiff and flat. So sometimes when you do put stitching on it, you want to see in its natural form, but kind of like flat. So what I came up with, I thought, why nobody even thought about this? So I came up with something called fusible applique tag. So it comes in 4 sizes. What it does is, I'm getting that page. You will get this. It's not a magnifying glass. It is an iron press. So you have a few of this wax paper, and you have a spray side of it. So make sure that you always know where to put in the front. Then this is what you use to put under your iron. Then you just have to take one of this tag out. Say I'm going to applicate this. So I just put the tag on it. And you can see exactly where you position it. And you just iron it down. This becomes a fusible applique. And you can fuse it to whatever you want. And I actually did this sample. But you can see by the kind of workmanship, it got to be me, you know, it's horrible. I can't even cut a circle. So you can see that this is fused totally, and it is flat. And then when you stitch with it, it is hard on your finger. If you do hand or machine, even for machine, your machine is not going to like anything sort of like sticky, gluey, gummy, or thick. And now if you just tack it down like this, and you have all the 3 edges to decorate. And it still stay as soft as it is. So I made this almost like 4 or 5 months ago. And everyone's trying to pull it, you know, and it's still staying there. So it is really good. Imagine now you don't have to go around with all those pins and needles and yeah. And it feels really well. All right, so I think it is a very simple product, but it's going to be really effective, and I would believe people love it. The next thing is, we heard about decluttering all the time now, you know. So decluttering for some is to throw out your stuff. So decluttering to me is to get organized, all right? So I'm sure everyone has a lot of fabric, but fabric you can always fold and you put it together, but one thing is you always have problem remembering what you have. Okay, and there are a lot of boxes that you stack, so you hurt your back. Okay, I need that one there. If you know what's in it, and this is how people store fabric. And what about threads? We could be almost in the same sort of situation. We store thread in a tub, or we can put it on the wall if we really want to mess up the wall. Unless we don't use the thread, keep it like as you bought it. No, don't open it. Otherwise, it's going to get messy. And if you want to rearrange it, you have to take everything off and so try to put it back on when you want to put few more colors or glue on. But this is all what I don't want to see. So then, my background was architecture, so I worked in the architecture office before, and I know how we organize stuff. I'm sure you see things like this. So what that really is, this will fit in your regular cabinet or bookcases, and you can actually put a lot of them. Even in the old days when we learned, we're talking about modular design, because we do think about expansion, we do think about reorganization. So a modular design is always good. That means you can easily shuffle things around. Now, imagine this is facing you. You have a whole row of them. You have 400 spools here, just here. And now we have in each one of this, it's a filing cabinet, right? So of course you need this. You're going to write that this is blue or this is Wonderfil, and you put it there, right? Then when you open it, I'm looking for Wonderfil. What do? You pull.
Sweet.
It's facing you. All right. The beauty is it's facing you. You don't have to do something like this, and you can accurately withdraw, and you can put it back easily. And you have more colors, then you can easily say, okay, I just get another module. I just sort of push this aside a little bit, I put another module there, right? So it fit spools like this from Wonderfil, and also, of course, spool like this for our spools as well as our fellow thread companies. So this, so this will fit also other spools. All right, so I think it is a really, really good thing to get organized and make sure whatever you spend, you get to see them, you get to use them.
And what is it called?
A thread bank.
Thread bank.
Because you deposit and you withdraw
Got
correctly with great pleasure.
it. There's no way you can buy just one.
There's no way you can buy
yeah,
this.
I mean, just like any Wonderfil product,
Way to go, Eddie.
it is addictive. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It really clean up your place and save you a lot of, yes.
If you don't mind, I'd like to backtrack on a
Sure.
couple of things, just very briefly.
Okay,
When you were talking about the materials, the cotton, poly,
yes,
that, I know that on a spool, it tells you the weight, it tells you the,
Yes.
a lot of information.
yes.
What do we look for to know what the finish is on a spool?
So I think most of the time what we can only give you is to tell you very briefly what material is. I think on all Wonderfil spools, we do tell you what material it is.
Okay.
All right, so I can't really speak for everyone. And I also see misinformation given. And but as you can see, we don't have a lot of place to put
Right.
information on. So
I just was wondering if there's some code or something that we would be looking for when we're looking at one of your spools or even somebody else, but to know what kind of finish it is versus
they definitely won't tell you the finish. They'll tell you the material,
just the material
just the
weight,
materials.
and then
And
just
the
try
color
it
name,
and see
color
what
number, all those sort of things, and batch number,
happens.
the
Okay.
production batch number.
So kind of piggybacking from what she's saying, so once you take all the packaging off, do you have, like, is it something on the inside, just to remind me, like, say, the weight or
It's all
anything
here.
like that?
This is not going to come off. It
Oh,
will
that-
tell you 80 weight deco bar.
Okay, but that's not
Oh, yeah,
part of
sorry.
the packaging?
And on
I'm
the
sorry.
And on the
spools,
side,
it'll
okay.
also tell you
Yeah,
on the spools.
yeah.
Obviously, I've purchased other,
Oh, yeah,
Some
yeah.
of the
that's-
brands.
no, that's
and then
okay.
once you take the packaging off, sometimes there's nothing left. I'm like, oh, I don't remember what this is, and I'm digging through my stuff and
Oh,
I'm
right.
like, oh, I don't know, yeah.
So for threads like this, make sure every time you take the package off, get your Sharpie ready and write it at the bottom.
Yes, yes.
And I had one other real quick question. When you were talking about the different weights and that sort of thing of threads, and you were talking about home deck type
Yes.
thread being heavier and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Stronger, yeah.
Do you have a line that's good for outdoors that might be UV?
Okay, all right. So home deck is also outdoor. Home deck's also outdoor for your garden thing. The only thing you need to watch out if you start doing like marine things,
Okay,
where you have a lot of salt water, or when you're talking about things you wear in a chemical plant, then you're really going to get into something deeper.
okay.
If you are just doing garden furniture, regular furniture, your home deck would do it. Yeah, yeah. It stands up very well to UV.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if it would disintegrate outdoors because of sunlight.
Well, I put it this
Rain.
way, I think the material, the fabric would deteriorate faster than the thread.
Okay.
Yeah, if that happens.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, everybody, we're gonna now just say goodbye to our virtual family. So,
Bye, bye-bye, thank you for being with us.
bye, everyone. And don't forget about the holiday party coming in December.
All right, so please, because we've been talking and talking, so it's very